User experience is defined as the way in which users perceive the fact of interacting with an environment, an application, or a device in regards to and depending on a series of elements that relate to the product or device involved. User interfaces generated with GeneXus offer an intuitive and smooth user experience that is easy and user-friendly. All web applications have gained in performance thanks to the mechanism used in solving the client-server dialogue. The features that make the user experience positive are optimization of event triggering scheme, meaning an optimum execution of events because only the events needed are executed. This implies that only the necessary parts of pages are refreshed, where the user receives quick feedback, and only the minimum information necessary is sent to the server. The optimum navigation through pages. Navigation through pages is solved using Ajax, with a comfortable, toned-down effect for the user during the transition. The default toned-down effect may be customized in a property of one theme. The notifications on the spot. Users may be notified in relation to any event without the need to refresh the web page because these notifications are sent by the server. In order to achieve a satisfactory user experience, GeneXus X Evolution 3 includes the Web User Experience property, both at the version and object levels. The default value set for this property is smooth. One behavior that defines the smooth value of the Web User Experience property is how the refresh is executed on a web page when a user event is triggered inside the page. This causes the refresh event to not be executed implicitly when the execution of a user event is completed, and the start event to be executed only once. Also, every web component is independent from the main page containing it. This means that the refresh of a web component has no effects on the rest of the page. It also enables single-page applications, so that navigating towards a web page contained in the same master page does not cause the refresh of the whole page on the browser. It only updates the page contained in the content placeholder. Now we will see in practice the new event triggering scheme in a web panel when the Web User Experience property is set with the value smooth. So now let's go to GeneXus. We've created the web panel called Speakers and Sessions, where we can select a session of a dynamic combo that shows all speakers in that session. We can also view the number of speakers at the bottom of the grid. In this example that corresponds to an interactive query with a filter defined, the behavior has not changed at all. We should recall that, by selecting Get, the start event is triggered first and the code defined in that event is executed. Inside, it's defined that the image of the confirmed cancelled symbol be loaded in the status variable. Then the refresh event is triggered and is executed once, causing the start of the query's execution. Immediately after this comes the execution of the load event, once for each record navigated because the web panel in the example has a base table. As a result of this, all data in each record fulfilling the conditions defined will be added to the HTML that will be sent to the client, and the grid will be drawn on the page in the client. We can see that in the refresh event, we've initialized the quantity variable with 0, and in the load event, we're increasing the same variable. So what happens when the user enters, or in this case selects, a value in the variable used to filter? Let's see it. By default, the variables that are part of the conditions cause an automatic refresh. This means that the query is executed again, and the page is loaded again as well. So the program associated with the web panel must be executed again on the server, and the execution is done in this order. The start event first, then the data is read on screen, obtaining the value that the user set for the session ID variable, and then the refresh, immediately followed by the corresponding loads. This is how the speakers fulfilling the condition are loaded to the file. Once the process is completed, the file is returned to the client browser that will draw the page with this data. As we said, This behavior is one we already knew about. Now let's see the case for executing a user event. The web user experience property set with value smooth causes the user event to not trigger the refresh event automatically. And in any case, the developer may decide to execute refresh explicitly using the refresh command when deemed convenient. Therefore, when a user event is executed, the following will take place. The variables on the form are read, and the user event that caused the post is executed. So let's take a look at the following example. We have another web panel called Session Status, which enables us to select a session, in the session ID variable defined as a dynamic combo to then show the speakers, register for that session. Despite the fact that the session has all its speakers confirmed, there's a possibility that one will be canceled at some point. So, we have the possibility, by clicking on the image with a speaker status, to indicate that the speaker is canceled. To this end, we've defined the status.click event, that is, the event that will be executed when the user clicks on the status control of the image type. Inside this event, we invoke the change status procedure, passing the parameters necessary so that it will perform the physical update of the status for the session speaker. Since we know that there won't be a refresh executed implicitly when the user event is finished, we've included the refresh command expressly, following the invocation to the procedure. We must also know that, when a user event is associated with one line in the grid, the refresh will only apply to that line, and the grid will not be reloaded all over again. Lastly, we will now see the impact of the smooth value on applications with just one page. Single-page applications are those where only the contents in the content placeholder change. Navigating to a page substantially similar to the current page should not force the refreshment of the whole page on the browser, but rather the elements that require updating only. In GeneXus, the call and link commands are used to navigate through pages, and since they both use AJAX, it's possible to call the new page without the need to refresh the whole page. This means that the elements already present on the page will not be reloaded. And in general, GeneXus applications use a master page where developers indicate the components shared by all the pages in the application, such as headers, menus, and so on. So, when the user navigates through the pages contained in the same master page, the elements in common will not be reloaded. Also, the master page will only update the necessary elements, such as recent links of the work with pattern.